Okay, YouTube, welcome back to Prison Architect Alpha 23. This is episode 31. Wow, 31 episodes. Who would have thunk it? This is going to be as bad as my EU4 Luck of the Irish Let's Play with 80-some episodes. Yeah, so we're installing showers. It's very exciting, I know. But that's what we're doing. It's going to take a while. And in fact, someone doing metal detectors? No, I'm going to cancel the metal detectors. Just because I don't want them to do shower heads. Have people start using the shower and the metal detector short circuit. So I'll put the metal detectors in last. It's not a big deal to not have metal detectors in an empty cell block. It will manage to survive somehow. Yeah. I'm actually pretty amazed that this prison is still going. I did not think it would last this long. It's one of the reasons I kind of didn't rush to do this cell block. I figured, this will be easy and quick. It'll maybe get my grade up a little bit, and it's all irrelevant because everyone's going to be dead soon. But no, it's still going. We've actually released 0 inmates. It's going to take us so long to release anybody. But that's okay. Ooh, that dog got distracted there. Yeah, looks like you took a poop on the floor. That's dogs for you. I worked canine security once. If you're eating, you don't want to listen to this story. I worked in canine security once, and I had a dog, fantastic dog. But there was something wrong with his digestive system because he never pooped solid poop. It was always like diarrhea water poop. And of course, you're supposed to clean up after your dog, right? You carry little doggy bags and you pick up their poop when they poop, but you can't pick up poop when it's diarrhea. And we mostly worked like areas that were like fields and stuff filled with animals. We patrolled a lot of that type of area. We did a lot of other type of stuff. Like we did some office buildings, but he never tried to poo inside, so that wasn't a big deal. But then one day we got a new client in my patrol area that was like a strip mall, and they insisted, because normally it's like up to the individual guard if he's going to take the dog out of the truck or not. So if it's like a quick 2-minute patrol, I don't bother taking the guard out of the truck. It's irrelevant. It serves me no purpose to take my dog out of the truck. So normally just kind of leave the dog in the truck for longer patrols, or when it's like outside, or if it's in like a fenced-in area, then I take the dog out, let him run around a little bit. If it's fenced in, if it's not, he's on a leash. But he's still getting some exercise if it's going to be like a 10 or 15-minute patrol. But yeah, these strip mall owners, they were like, no, we're hiring a dog company specifically. We want the dogs to be outside and patrolling. And of course, I worked 6 days a week, so for 6 nights. They got me and my dog. I didn't work for one of those companies where you got to sign a dog every day. This was your dog. So, I always worked with the same dog, no matter what. With his diarrhea poops. So we're doing this strip mall, and we're walking by a bar. And some guy stops to ask me a bunch of questions, and I got distracted by this guy, and I didn't realize that my dog was taking giant diarrhea poop right outside the front door of this bar. So people come out of and it smelled bad. He did not have, flour and gumdrop aroma to poop. It was nasty smelling stuff too. So all these people would come out of the bar and they'd be like, "What is that smell?" So I called my dispatch and I said, "All right, well, this is what happened. I have no way to clean it up." And they were like, "Yeah, oh well, they wanted a dog. That's what they get." So after about a week, I had a meeting with my my boss. I guess he wasn't really my boss. He's more kind of my supervisor. As we do on a weekly basis, we always had meetings to what are the problem areas in your district and stuff like that, so that they could pass it on to, if you were sick or on the one day that I took off, someone else would have to do it, so they could pass on kind of what the issues were. So like a weekly meeting. It's not like I was like, oh, I'm having a meeting. I wonder what's going to happen. So I was ready to get yelled at about my dog taking these terrible poops. And he didn't say anything about it. So when he was done, I asked him, like, did you hear any complaints? He's like, they mentioned it. And I told them, like, well, that's what dogs do. Do you want us to do something else? And they were like, no, that's fine. So nobody really cared. But yeah, I mean, the dog had been to the vet, and the vet's like, there's nothing wrong with him. He just, different people have different poops, and that's what his poop is like. Deal, basically the response from everybody was just deal with it. And so I thought the mall owners would be upset. But, I mean, let's face it, if you run a mall that is rough enough that you need to hire a dog patrol every day, you're probably not so neat and tidy that, I mean, let's just say my dog poop was not the worst thing I saw on that property. But it was still amusing to me. Especially when, like, every now and then a drunk girl would be like, oh, what a cute little dog. And then he'd just squat down and let this giant pool of brown Aramis goo just ooze out of his butthole. And they didn't think he was such a cute dog after that. That job was, it's one of those things, every now and then you find a job that you love, but you just don't make enough money at it. And I had other priorities in my life as well. I was working on getting back in shape, but when you're working 6 days a week, and honestly, it was like 20-hour days. So I was working 6 days a week, 20-hour days, and I was making like $800 a week doing it. It just, as much as I loved that job, as much as I loved that dog, I just couldn't do it for long. I did it as long as I could, and then other opportunities came up, and I went elsewhere. Then I did some programming and some IT work after that, before getting into the job I'm in now. But man, I'll never forget my big black dog and his liquid diarrhea poops all over the mall. It was outside the strip mall, right? Like I said, but still. Liquid diarrhea poops all over the mall. I always thought, like, if there's just a hose, I could, take them wherever there's a hose and hose it down, but there wasn't. And because a lot of our patrols were inside, he didn't have a lot of places that he could poop. So, like, the first time he tried to do it, he got, like, that squat going, like, okay, I need to take a dump. And I was like, no, let's go. And I kind of tugged on the leash, and he kind of stopped, started walking with me. And it's about 20 steps later, his liquid poop running down his legs. So, I mean, when he stops in the middle of a patrol, that was my hint that, no, he really does have to poop. He's not just being like, this is a good place. He's like, no, it's coming. So I learned my lesson. I didn't try to stop him after that. I did try to, there was like a little, behind the strip mall, there was like a garbage dump area that also had like some dirt. So I tried to pull over there, take him out, and then wait there for 4 or 5 minutes, maybe just play some tug of war or whatever, just to see, so that if he did have to poop, hopefully he would poop there, where I could kick some dirt over it. Sometimes he did, sometimes he waited 10 minutes and pooped when we were at the front of the strip mall. I mean, he doesn't speak English. I couldn't just say, look, we're going on a long patrol, if you gotta go, go now. Didn't work that way with dogs. He was still a good dog, though. He's a good little puppy. Good little puppy. He was huge. He was massive. I always claimed he looked more like a bear cub. I once had a guy with a machete on the property that I was patrolling. Actually, it was that same friggin' strip mall. We got a call from the strip mall. It just said there's a guy. He robbed the liquor store, and now he's sitting out front of the liquor store, drinking the stuff he stole with a machete. So no one wants to bug him. And they said, we've called the cops, but they said it's going to be like 20 minutes before they can get there. So they're like, can you send somebody? So they called me and they said, well, your job description isn't to get stabbed, so you can go look, but don't approach if you don't, if it looks too dangerous. Now, I'd already been in the military police before I did this job, so I mean, a guy with a machete, I'm not necessarily intimidated by him to go and look. I wouldn't necessarily have walked up to the guy, but I wasn't intimidated to go look. So I get there, and it's like this 120-pound guy. And what they described as a machete was like a little switchblade. So I was like, wow, I can handle a scrawny little guy with a switchblade when I have a giant bear cub dog. So I pulled up, like, I want to say, like, in front of him, but not, like, right in front of him. You know what I mean? It was in front of him, but like 60 feet away across the parking lot, but directly in front of him. So he easily, like, he watched me pull in. I made sure there was no way he'd miss me pulling in. And of course, my truck had security on the side and stuff. And so I get out, and he right away starts mouthing off, right? Like, oh, you think you're going to scare me, security guard? Bring it. He's waving his knife around, and I'm like, I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to let my dog take care of it. And he's like, ooh, a dog. Am I supposed to be scared of a dog? And so I opened the back door. And the way I worked it is I would open the door, but I would stand blocking the doorway, because I can't just let the dog jump out. I got to put the leash on him first, right? And if I were to just open the door, he would just jump right out and start running around. So when I opened the door, I always stood in front of the back door of the truck and blocked it until I hooked up the leash. But he used to like lick the side of my face when I do it, and then like peer over my shoulder as I was hooking up his leash. And he did that. So he kind of licked my face and looked over my shoulder. He barked once. And it wasn't even a loud bark. It was like I see there's someone there doing something that I don't like kind of a bark. Like a ruff, not a, just the smallest, like an acknowledgement to the guy to say, I see you there with your stolen alcohol and your machete switchblade. And so I got the leash hooked up. I turned around, and I always pay attention to the dog jumping down because I don't want him to get hurt. So I'm watching the dog. He jumps down. I close the door. I look, and the guy is nowhere to be seen. He's long gone. As soon as he saw the dog, he just, started pounding pavement. He was out of there so fast. And I was like, yeah, I guess you were scared of my dog. But like I said, he looked more like a bear cub than a dog, so it really wasn't a surprise to me that he was gone. If someone was like, oh, come over to my place, and I went over and a dog like that was standing there, I would be like, should I come in? Your dog looks pretty rough. $20. We have $20 in the bank. Yeah, I do miss that dog. Oh, excuse me a second. Another frog in my throat. He was hard to get handlers for because he was so big, and he was a little bit stubborn. So he needed a handler who was really kind of strong and confident with him, so that he didn't kind of step out of line. Because if you didn't, if you gave him leeway to the point where he wasn't sure who the boss was, he'd walk all over you. Even with me, every now and then he'd tug my leash, or he'd be sitting and someone would walk by, and he would get up and start barking and try to like tug towards them, which a security dog isn't supposed to do. They're supposed to do that if someone's in your personal space being aggressive, but if they've been told to sit and you're just saying hello to somebody, they shouldn't be getting up. But every now and then he would, right? And I think that was just him testing kind of the limits of the handler. So he's very hard to get a handler for. I managed him just fine for the 5.5 months that I worked there. And then it was like 8 months later when I got a call from the guy who owned the security guard company, and he said, look, we can't find anybody to take care to work with him. He's too big. He's too tough. It's rare that we get handlers in that can deal with him. So because he's big, obviously he eats a lot, right? He eats a lot of food. He takes a lot of space. So I said, if you just want to buy him, if we get rid of him, we'd get a different dog that was, maybe a Belgian Mal, something that's easier to handle. But he's just too big of a shepherd. And I would have loved to, but the problem is they fully trained, and we didn't train these dogs to like bark and stuff. We did like Schutzhund training. They were basically police dog trained. So the problem is, first of all, you take a purebred shepherd with strong drives and a good pedigree, and you're already looking at, $9,000 or $10,000 just for the dog. Then the training on top of that, it's like $10,000 worth of training. So it's like he was like a $20,000-$30,000 dog. And they're like, do you want to buy him? And I was like, I'd love to, but there's no way I could give you a fair price. And the guy's like, I'd sell him for $6,000, honestly, because right now he's just costing me money. I'm getting nothing out of it. He's just costing me money. And I very strongly thought about it, because if nothing else, I could have studded him, right? Could have made money just taking him to breeders and letting him have sex with all the sexy female German Shepherds. But at the end of the day, I just didn't have that kind of money. I was living in an apartment. It wasn't that big an apartment. Plus the thought of, owning a working dog with liquid poops is bad enough, but a civilian, could you imagine the complaints I would get from people at dog parks and, people in my building when he pooped outside? And it wouldn't have been worth the hassle. But sometimes I think about it, I kind of regret not having him because he was such a fantastic dog. He was so loyal to people. He was one of those dogs, he hated everybody except for a small handful of people. But those handful of people he didn't hate, he really loved, you know? Like, someone got within 3 feet of him, he would bark, snarl, and growl. Like, he was just a mean dog, hated everybody. But, like, if I kneeled down, he would lick my face and roll over, and he was very affectionate with the people he liked, and he liked me. So I do miss him very, very much. I had, like, at the same time I was doing that, my cousin got a new border collie. And, I mean, it's a border collie. They love everybody. And I remember going to visit him and thinking, yeah, see, the problem with a dog like this is, how do you know the dog loves you? It loves everybody. Whereas my, you know, my work dog, he hated everybody. That's how I knew he loved me. Memories. Memories of days gone by. In any case, we are up to $800. And we're going to have some cells. I'm glad we're kind of getting some cells going. I'm also glad we're making 23 grand. This is going to be jumping up to over 25 grand quite quickly. And I'm just going to finish this off in 10 seconds, in fact. Watch 23,366. 28,336. Wow, we made 5. Wow, excellent, outstanding. Okay, we're almost making 30 grand a day. Now we're starting to see some good cash flow. We can keep building our cells. Outstanding. This is excellent. Okay, so anyways, got to keep building cells. Once this is done, I'll probably expand this a little bit, and maybe expand this a little bit, just because we're at that point where we may start needing more serving tables. We're probably going to start needing some more kitchen equipment, and we have no more room for sinks already. That's it, right? Sinks would go over into the wall. Oh, no, we have room for 2 more sinks. In any case, we're definitely going to be expanding, so we need to continue expanding these. So these will probably be my next priority, but we are going to have to wait some time because we are short on cash. In any case, all that's going to be in a future episode. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to leave it a like. It really helps my channel grow, and I know I certainly do appreciate it. And don't forget to subscribe if you'd like to see more content from me. But for now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.